Alright everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today I've got a land battle. This is going to be Empire versus the Greenskins. Now, I opted for quite a different strategy here. As you might already have guessed, I am very much a rush enjoyer. So for the Empire, I brought 5 Greatswords. Definitely not a meta build. I would not recommend doing this if you're really trying to win. I do have a couple of archers, but most of the time I think Empire very much excels on their gunpowder and artillery units. Now, I had a couple Empire Knights in the back here, still trying to defend my backline as little as it is, but they're going to start forcing off these Goblin Spider Riders. Same is going on over here. Looks like we got Boris Toddbringer, who I did bring as my lord, here to terrify some more of those Forest Goblin Spider Riders. For the caster, I opted for an Amber Wizard, Lore of Beasts. I am very familiar with that lore magic, so felt comfortable. I do have a couple other spears, just as chaff, mixed into this front line to help me hopefully win the fight. Now, my opponent has got a lot of goblins, a bunch of orc boys, and then a couple of trolls, of course, accompanied by this black orc big boss. It looks like he's got, yeah, the Rabble Rouser, the Immune to Psychology aura to help out those trolls, though they are departing from him, going off in separate cases. Now, these Greatswords get a good clash. Fighting against goblins isn't going to be the greatest thing ever. I do have a couple of units doubling up here. Definitely not the best play. But for the most part, front lines are clashing. My opponent has a lot of Spider Riders, as a couple of big orc biggins over here, but he has brought as his lord Wurzag here, who is sitting out in the open. So I've summoned my Manticore to get some value onto Wurzag there. Looks like we were able to shatter this portion right here. Those great swords and the spears actually cutting down those trolls really well. I wonder who actually did most of the damage there. I mean, great swords probably killed the goblins pretty quickly. And spearmen have just been poking at the... Oh, no, it's mainly just the archers. These crossbowmen back here are actually super key for me getting these trolls off. Because great swords are great anti-infantry tools, but not so much in the anti-large portion of things. Now, let's see how much value this Manticore's gotten. 445 for that single spell. It is a 200 cost Winds of Magic spell, but still pretty dang good value, and he's still going to be fighting there. Pretty happy with how that is turning out. My Amber Wizard was getting beat up a little bit there by Orc boys. Very tough infantry, at least for the price. But my crossbowmen are still online, and my opponent has realized that they're a big problem. They're just taking out these trolls. So he brings in some Spider Riders. Beautiful Foot of Gork there, absolutely crushing a couple of these great swords in that spearman unit. But he does sacrifice part of his front line as well. I've brought in some Empire Knights to kind of reinforce my crossbowmen. They do take a decent amount of damage from that charge, but Forest Goblin Spider Riders are going to get wrecked for sure. He does have another unit. I believe this one will be bringing in pretty soon here. I believe the Balance of Power is going to start tipping my way here. Boris is getting pretty much a free fight here with Wurzag, which is not what my opponent would want. Now, unluckily for me, there are a bunch of trolls and spears coming in. Well, not spears, goblins. They're not going to have anti-large. Either way, coming in to start putting the hurt on Boris. As you can tell, he's starting to lose his engagement a little bit. And Wah is popped, which is absolutely perfect for at least this fight right here. Most of the front line's pretty much gone, but you still have the Black Orc Big Boss, a couple more Orc boys fighting, and then over here in the distance, ooh, it looks like we just have a Flock of Doom coming down. But Boris is taking off. He does not want any more of that fight. Pretty much lasted the duration of that Wah, so definitely a good engagement for my opponent, but Wurzag was still pretty low, and I thought, you know what, I can probably just dive bomb in here and try to get him off the field. That would definitely, hopefully, help hand me the win. So Wurzag does rout. My backline is secured by these Empire Knights, and some portions of the front line have broken off. These great swords have definitely fought well and stayed around. This is more sturdy than most Empire front lines you'll find, especially into Greenskins. But my opponent didn't exactly go and invest heavily into the Greenskins infantry. Orc boys are nasty, but they're still pretty cheap infantry, and they're not going to hold their own against greatswords. So Wurzag did rout for a moment there. It looks like he's already back, but I believe Boris has the speed, and yeah, he instantly routs. That's going to push him off, and the Balance of Power is just swaying super far from my opponent. I've got stuff chasing these trolls. Looks like the army losses is breaking right there, and that was a pretty darn quick and fun land battle. Definitely not one I would say is meta, probably from either of us here. The Black Orc Big Boss with trolls is definitely a good combo, but you probably got to keep them a little bit closer together. And then the Greenskins definitely brought a decent amount of infantry, but it wasn't the hardest hitting. No Black Orcs, nothing to really rival my Greatswords, though he probably was not expecting that many Greatswords. Wurzog did get a decent amount of value. That Foot of Gork was absolutely wonderful. And then I believe the rest of this is just some decent value. Nothing quite yet paying for itself, but none of these units are necessarily meant to. On my side of things, Boris definitely, he was on top of Wurzog for the most part. So he did get some damage value, and I think if the game were to go longer, he probably would have easily gotten his value. The Amber Wizard, it doesn't really show a lot of value here. He cast a couple of Flock of Dooms, but that one Manticore summon definitely got him at least 3 times what we're seeing right here. So pretty good value there. Great Swords, as you can see. This one almost paid for itself. That was pretty dang good. These Great Swords definitely aren't necessarily paying for themselves, but as you can tell, they didn't have the craziest front line with which to fight, so it kind of was lucky, I think. I was pretty lucky on that fight. Looks like that crossbowman unit definitely got a ton of value. But yeah, I would count myself pretty lucky here. This is a strategy my opponent certainly was not anticipating. PENTA Greatswords is not one you see very often, but I had fun with it. Greatswords are a really, really fun infantry unit, so maybe I'll try that again. Either way, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will talk to you later.